Hello, everybody. My name is Charity Counts. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Midwest Museums. I'm a white woman with fair skin, dark hair, and a white streak. I'm joining you today from my home office in Fishers, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis. Thank you for joining us for our 2021 Best Practices Award Community Celebration, held virtually this year, in honor of this year's recipient, the Ford House. Before we begin our program, I'd like to invite Greg Whitcop to offer a land acknowledgement on behalf of AMM.
Thank you, Charity. I'm Greg Whitcop, Director of the Cranbrook Center for Collections and Research on the northern edges of metropolitan Detroit. It is a privilege to serve on the Board of Directors of the Association of Midwest Museums and chair this year's awards program. In this era of virtual meetings, when digital spaces often substitute for our physical sense of place, it is important to redirect our attention to the land we each occupy in this moment and honor the Indigenous people who have called it home. Because I am located in Oakland County in southeastern Michigan, I invite you to join me in acknowledging the Anishinaabe people composed of the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi tribes, their elders past and present, as well as future generations. I wish to recognize the strength and resilience of these and all Indigenous peoples who have endured and continue to steward the land that I am privileged to call home, in spite of the devastation of their land and lives as the result of colonialism, the misrepresentation of their cultures and heritage across time, including by museums, and the ongoing struggle to be recognized in contemporary narratives. Please also consider this acknowledgement a commitment from AMM to continue to reach out to and learn about the many Indigenous communities and cultural centers with connections to the Midwest region. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to you, Charity.
Thank you, Greg. I have a few housekeeping notes before we begin the actual program today. First of all, as I've already mentioned, you're welcome to have your video on or off during this program, but please keep your audio muted until we prompt you to unmute for different points in the program. This event is an opportunity for all of us to celebrate our recipient, but also to learn more about them and their work. Please feel free to comment or ask questions in the chat, and we'll get to those as soon as we can in the Q&A segment later in the program. We encourage you to react to what you were hearing today. Part of the reason why we hosted this in Zoom meeting is because we get to experience this celebration with all of you in real time. So please react. You can do this one of a few ways. When we tell you to unmute, you can unmute and clap and cheer as loudly as you'd like. You can also react using the reaction tool feature within Zoom. It's in your menu. It's a chance for you to throw up a thumbs up or clap or cheer with just a symbol on your video screen. You can also comment in the chat. Just comment on what's happening. Cheer via words out there. However you choose to do it, if we can hear you or not, we can see you. We can see your response, and we appreciate you engaging and participating in the event today. Finally, we have an ASL interpreter with us today. You can pin and may also possibly be able to drag or drop the interpreter to a different location on your screen in Zoom. If you have questions about how to do any of that, feel free to drop a note to me in the chat. Now, let's start our program. As a part of the opening remarks here, I wanted to provide a little bit of history on AMM and this awards event. For those of you getting to know AMM for the first time today, I'd like to provide a little bit of background on who we are. We were founded in 1927, and we were one of the very first museum associations in the United States. Our focus for the last 94 years has been on connecting individuals and organizations within our profession and supporting their work through capacity building programs and resources. We serve an 8-state region, but our membership extends far beyond the Midwest. And our community includes traditional museums and historic sites, as well as art and cultural centers, science centers, zoos, and libraries. The past 2 years have been challenging, but have also invited creativity on many levels. The AMM Awards program is no exception. We piloted this new awards format last year and have decided to keep virtual community celebrations as an ongoing element of our awards program. It is a joy for us to be here with you, celebrating today's recipient and all of our honorees this week through a series of virtual celebrations that bring together their peers in the museum community, as well as their staff, colleagues, family, friends, and local community members. I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to our guests of honor for today's program. Please wave when I introduce you. You'll have a chance to reintroduce yourselves later. Our guests of honor are Mark Hepner, President and CEO of Ford House, Amanda Rutland, Director of Visitor Experience at Ford House, Jason Rewald, Vice President of Frank Rewald and Sons, and Bob Varga, who I think is still trying to get connected, but is in here. He's the lead architect from Smith Group from the project. I also see other members of our board on today. So if you're out there, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Say hello. Finally, I would like to thank Eli Ball, founder of Midway Spark, a software development company based in St. Louis and sponsor of our 2021 awards program. Midway Spark is focused on providing affordable, cutting-edge technology to nonprofit organizations. This includes Prismatic, a cloud-based museum management solution. Eli has been an active member and participant in the Midwest museums community, particularly in the last year. I've seen him at many of our biweekly meetups. So some of you may know Eli just through that. But we're really grateful that he's offered the resources to help us make this virtual series possible. Please unmute and join me in a round of applause in appreciation for Midway Spark's support and to welcome Eli to say a few words.
Thank you. Yes, I am Eli Ball. I have working on Midway Spark for a year or so, and it's been really exciting to see the changes and being a part of the AMM community. And I'm really grateful to be able to sponsor and help AMM recognize one of the members in creating a sustainable future, which is really important. So thank you.
Thanks, Eli. All right, I'm going to pass the mic back to Greg for the moment we've all been waiting for, the awards presentation.
All right. The Best Practices Award recognizes museums and cultural organizations whose innovative projects have pushed beyond the status quo and led to the advancement of best museum practices or the establishment of new practices at their institutions, allowing them to better fulfill their missions. Projects receiving the Best Practices Award offer new ideas or approaches to museum work or the museum experience and aspirational, if not replicable, models for the profession at large. This year's Best Practices Award recipient, Ford House, the historic estate of Edsel and Eleanor Ford in Grosse Pointe Shores, Michigan, opened a major expansion to the public on May 26 earlier this year. The addition of a 40,000 square foot visitor center and 17,000 square foot administration building was on its own a major accomplishment. This state-of-the-art project added exhibition and interpretive spaces, allowing for expanded program offerings, created event spaces that will allow new audiences to experience the estate in a variety of ways, and move the work of the curators, educators, and preservationists out of the National Historic Landmark Manor Home, allowing for more of the historic estate to be interpreted and experienced by the public. While these stunningly beautiful buildings, sited in lush historic and contemporary landscapes, all on the shore of Lake St. Clair, certainly enhance the visitor experience, their most impressive features are in their sustainable design. The new buildings are net zero energy efficient, and great care was taken to emphasize sustainability and the surrounding natural ecosystem. Walk down the corridors and you will learn that the glass in all the windows is embedded with a filament that is visible to birds, but invisible to humans. Look out the windows and you will see the bioswales and wetlands that capture and filter stormwater before it enters the waters of the Great Lakes. Sit down in the cafe and you will learn that the tables are made from wood reclaimed from the property. Ford House has created not only new physical spaces, indoors and outdoors for STEM learning, but also provides a launching point for discussing topics related to green building and eco-friendly design. These buildings show that we can make our water cleaner and create more energy than we spend, all while enriching our cultural heritage, adding beauty to the world, and staying true to our core missions and values. While the scale and scope of this project may seem out of the reach to many of us as we consider green initiatives for our own museums, we at AMM believe the Ford House's commitment to change is replicable, and learning from their experiences can inspire each of us to set our own aspirational goals for environmental sustainability. At this time, I invite everyone with us today to unmute or use Zoom reaction icons to join me in a round of applause in honor of this year's Best Practices Award recipient, Ford House, its leadership, staff, and entire team. All right. Thank you, everyone. I now invite Ford House President and CEO, Mark Hepner, and his leadership team to share a special presentation. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Greg. First of all, before I start sharing, I just have to say, Greg already did it all so well. I think we're done. We can all just go home. So I thank you, Greg. Let me see if I could get this to work properly, hopefully. And I believe. And if I did my work right, you should be able to see a screen that says moving forward together, correct?
Yes, although I think we're seeing your presenter view, not the
okay. Well, then thank you for saying that. I'm going to stop sharing. You'd think I would know better after all the times I've done this. We all have done this. Okay. All right. That should look better.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you, Charity. So first and foremost, it's really, really important. I don't want to thank Greg and the committee and Charity, of course, for the amazing work that you guys all do representing, our regional museums. And it's amazing in a year where there's been so much really innovation and flexibility and reacting to the world that we live in. And I know there's so many deserving organizations, but the fact that you all amongst our peers chose Ford House, it means a lot to me personally, and I know our board and our staff. So we're really, really honored for this. This project has been one that has been many years in the making, and it's one of those projects for anybody that's done new construction, you sometimes just don't think it's going to ever end. And then you throw on a pandemic, and it really becomes challenging. So it is one that's been transformational for us, but it has been one that's been long in the making. And so we're so thrilled to be recognized from this. And from the initial design and throughout every facet of this project, though, Ford House, we really focused on 4 pillars, and that was our stewardship, our visitor experience, our community, and sustainability. And it's for that sustainability that I'm so pleased to be recognized. For many of you, I understand that you don't know probably much, if anything, about Ford House. So I want to show this quick video so you can actually get a break from my voice. And hopefully this helps sets the stage a little bit about who we are.
Growing up, we spent a lot of time here. It was a place that Granny loved to have grandchildren and everybody around. I mean, it didn't feel like you were visiting your grandmother, it felt like you were welcomed in this home. It's not a house, it's a home.
It was Eleanor Ford's wishes that this house was preserved for the future and to be open for the community for its enjoyment and betterment. You get to learn about the story of the family and who these people were, what it was like to live here, to grow up here, and more importantly, their commitment and impact to our American heritage.
She wanted the public to appreciate her home as much as they did. So she left it in trust to the general public.
Like the Fords, we want visitors to come and create their own stories, their own memories. We want something that is inspirational to them. We want them to be moved by history. And I believe that having people experience and understand the past, it really makes them stop and think about their own future.
So, you know, our major focus here is, of course, to preserve the estate, but we're always trying to be forward thinking. These new buildings really have allowed us to do that and look about how we engage and make relevancy in a different way. So on November 14th, 2017, which seems so long ago, we did finally break ground for our new visitor center and administration building. And to get to the finishing line, we internally developed an organizational rallying cry called Moving Forward Together. And it took great effort from every department, from our partners, and definitely a lot of patience from our members in our own community here. But the end result, at least in my humble opinion, is well worth it. And it's really been a game changer for Ford House and who we are as an organization deep down at our core. So I'm going to show you one other video that actually hopefully tells you where we are today and what we look like moving forward.
When Eleanor Ford left her beloved home to the community, she asked that it be a welcoming place. This expansion helps us to fulfill her vision. The state-of-the-art visitor center weaves together the Ford family legacy with 21st century technology and preserves the warmth and elegance of the family home. Here, you will find exceptional visitor amenities and gain a new insight into one of Detroit and America's iconic families. A family that literally changed the world. Opening the Visitor Center and the adjacent administration building lets us turn our attention to restoration projects on the historic house and grounds. The new spaces let us offer you more ways to experience Ford House with exhibitions, educational programs and classes, workshops, and fun events. Come for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch at the Continental, where the views of Ford Cove are as extraordinary as the food. Or pick up a salad, sandwich, and snack at the Speedster to enjoy on the patio or as a picnic on the grounds. No visit is complete without shopping, and our expanded store will tempt you with unique items that reflect the Ford House story, its design, and enduring aesthetic. Let us host your private event in our flexible gathering spaces at the Ford House Visitor Center, offering a seamlessly beautiful event with a stunning lake view. On-site catering and event support ensure a quality experience, whether hosting a business conference or a social occasion. The new buildings were inspired by the English Cotswold-style design of the original home with a modern twist, while preserving and promoting environmental sustainability and honoring the estate's ecosystem. The connection between the buildings and landscape, the attention to protecting our natural surroundings, and intentionality that infuses all we do. This is our next chapter. The Ford House story continues with you.
So even with all this great new technology, we still get choppy video, so I apologize for that. But as you can tell, this really has been a momentous project and really has changed us forever. Now, the visitor center itself is a new 40,000 square foot state-of-the-art visitor center. It's a two-story building with dedicated space for enhancing the orientation, the education, and the overall experience for Ford House visitors. And it's really the first time we've had a building dedicated solely really with the visitor in mind. The visitor center also has space for traveling and changing exhibitions, as well as indoor and outdoor classrooms that will expand our educational opportunities. We have social spaces, which include an expanded retail shop and a restaurant with indoor and outdoor seating, which has really become already a destination restaurant. I think at least right now we're a month and a half booked ahead of time. And we have a second floor event space that overlooks the beautiful Ford Cove. So visitors can take a deep dive into the Ford family story and the creation of the estate through the permanent exhibition. They can actually be engaged with these elegantly designed spaces, and they can explore the new exhibits, take classes, host private events, dine and shop. So it really has opened the door for not only connecting them with Ford House and our heritage and our story, but engaging them in levels that we just could never do before. In addition to the visitor center, though, we also have a new administration building. And to me, this is almost as equally, well, it's equally as important, but sometimes even more important, because this is the building that really houses our team members. And this allows us, a lot of you, I'm sure your institutions, you have staff and all over a campus and different buildings. And now we can bring people together that has really increased efficiency, working collaboratively together. In addition, allows us to take a lot of these activities out of the historic core, so we could begin to restore those areas and open them up to the public for new experiences. Now, as I said, construction began in 2017 and wrapped up in March of this year. We have more than 500 skills tradespeople from around Detroit, around Michigan involved in this project. I'm really proud to say that our construction manager was Frank Rewald and Sons, and we're really just me personally, and the group is so grateful for them, the partnership, their dedication, and their vision throughout this long process. So I want to take a moment here now to welcome Jason Rewald, Vice President of Frank Rewald and Sons. Jason and his team became invaluable members of the Ford House family and helped us guide us through this project to its completion. So Jason, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for those kind words. We're extremely proud to be a part of this team for this project. As Mark mentioned, my name is Jason Rewald. I'm a vice president with Frank Rewald and Sons. We do have some history, much like the Ford family. We're in our 4th generation of family ownership and celebrating our 103rd year of business this year. So I think those correlations helped get through this project because we saw eye to eye on a lot of that stuff. And this project really for us stands out for a lot of reasons, but I do want to touch on just a couple of reasons because it's really a wow factor standout project for us of all the projects we've done, really. Number one, the collaboration, as Mark talked a little bit about, between Smith Group, between Rewald, between the ownership team. We had a lot of turns in the road throughout this long process, from material procurement to issues in the field, and just the long-term nature of this type of project. It really turned out successfully, and that never could have happened without the collaboration between the 3 parties there. You've also heard sustainability and environmental stewardship in this type of project is something that we are extremely proud of. And it's not very often that you get a sustainable project like this with the quality of building of this type of materials, the high-end nature of the project, but also keeping a practical feel and feeling like it fits there is something we are very proud of. And it took a team effort to get there. So as I mentioned, we've been around for a long time. And Mark, I've told you this in person, this project, we use it everywhere we go now. We're very proud of it. And it stands out for us. So we're honored to be a part of the team, to be receiving the Best Practices Award. And I think, Mark, with that, I can either pass it back to you or over to Bob.
Yeah, no, I will jump in here. And Jason, thank you so much. And I guess I would be extremely remiss if we did not, or at least I did not recognize your other colleague who I know is on this call, Gene Ferreira. And the reason Gene has been, again, at my side and our staff and team side throughout this whole project, and boots on the ground. And more importantly, this is, I don't want anybody to think he's retiring with this project. And I don't want anybody to think that we caused him to retire, that this was so crazy, but he has such a portfolio under him. And I'm just honored that we are able to celebrate this as his final project with Rewald in a celebration of what we've done here at Ford House.
Yep. Thank you for that, Mark. I know Gene feels that way.
Well, thank you so much, Jason. As any of you can imagine, the selection of an architectural firm for this once in a lifetime project was extremely critical to Ford House. We had many qualified firms that we interviewed, that we talked about, but I'm really proud to say at the end of the day, we selected Smith Group, and the lead architect, Bob Varga, is with us today. And Bob and his team were so instrumental in bringing our vision to fruition, as well as the sustainability best practices to life, supporting Ford House's dedication to preservation and stewardship so visitors can enjoy this estate for centuries to come. And I got to tell you, Bob's going to speak here now, but anybody knows us too, we're not easy clients necessarily. And Bob stuck with us, continued to push this vision. And, Bob, I hope you're as proud as I am to see the hard work that you did and the team did at Smith Group and what we get to enjoy today.
Oh, absolutely, Mark. Thanks so much for that. We loved the relationship we had with you guys. It was fantastic, and it resulted in a project that was fantastic too. Working with Mark and his team, everyone, we really focused on how we could accentuate the mission of the Ford House, and stewardship bubble up to be one of those. So to that point, the admin building, it's designed to be LEED Platinum version 4, which is a really high standard. But even more exciting for, I think, everybody that's been involved is that it's targeting net positive energy. So it's going to produce more energy than it actually uses. And that's one of a rare group. It's a rare group of buildings that can say that in the world, let alone in Michigan. So that was really exciting to us. Also, as we move forward, and the visitor center was designed to LEED version 4 gold standards. And really to achieve these goals kind of collectively between the complex, the first thing we did was we provided a ton of insulation. I know nobody sees the insulation of the building, but there was a ton of insulation. We considered orientation carefully. We then really transitioned to using like really deep geothermal wells to minimize the energy use, and looked with ways to reduce energy to a bare minimum. And then what you're seeing on these images is these photovoltaic panels that generate the electricity. We're so successful with it as a group that we're going to produce energy, more energy than we use. So that's an awesome statement to be able to say. We also recognize that being on the lake, that it's a challenge on how we manage the Great Lakes watershed and being part of that. So the bigger the complex, the bigger the parking lots. Generally speaking, parking is not a great thing when it comes to stormwater runoff. But we were able to create a system of bioswales and weirs that cleans the water before it sends it back into Ford Cove and back into the lake. In fact, on the next slide, we see a weir, a series of these weirs that were that work so successfully that through a natural filtration system, the water exiting into Ford's Cove is cleaner than the water in Ford's Cove. And so that was pretty spectacular. We also followed Jens Jensen lead on the way we organize the landscape. Jen Jensen was the landscape architect. And so this whole zone is emphasizing native plantings, and it's going to encourage wildlife use, and it's going to encourage a low need for fertilizers, pesticides, and water. I think another interesting thing is we kind of found out that we're in a migratory bird path. We should have known this. This is one of those oopsies that ended up being a really great story. We talked to the birdwalking group, Friends of the Local Audubon Society, and they said, hey, what about the birds? And we're like, oh yeah. And we did some analysis, realized that we were on a migratory bird path, and then quickly worked with Ford House to transition the type of glass we were using to use bird-friendly glass. So you don't see it. I think somebody mentioned it earlier, Greg, that you don't see it, but the birds do. And so they don't run into it. That's kind of a cool invisible feature that we also wanted to add.
So Bob, thank you for that. And you're absolutely right, especially regarding the bird safety glass. It's one of those things as kind of best practices when you think we know everything, which we really don't, to have your ears open and ask questions, because quite frankly, as you know, we would not have done that if somebody from the community and one of our stakeholders didn't educate us. And then we were able to pivot with your help to make adjustments to actually bring forth what we did. So it's been, may I ask you too, Bob, you've been on many, many projects and have done a huge portfolio under your belt. How does this rank with your projects? And of course, I just set you up.
There's a lot of cool projects, but this one I was extremely special in the sense that this is going to kind of transcend my life. This was designed to be 100+ years. And so my kids are already wanting to come see it. But that's the story that's so powerful behind it, is that this is a once in a lifetime project because it's going to really transcend beyond my life. And that's a powerful thing to try to set it up to be designed and to work and to outlive us that way is cool.
Well, thank you, Bob. I really appreciate it. It's been a great relationship and quite an adventure, and makes me happy to call you friends. So thank you for everything you've done in Smith Group. Now, also important to us were really to think about sustainable practices in this into the new visitor experience. So I want to talk about a couple other things that you all might find interesting. For example, what you see here, the tables in the dining areas and the fixtures in the shop are made from reclaimed wood from the estate. And each table is labeled to tell guests this part of the story. We really have focused on storytelling, and it's important because we want people to understand the historical context, but also these new things that we do moving forward. And sometimes it's the small touches that have a big impact. Hydration stations are located throughout the buildings to eliminate the reliance on plastic bottles. So now we don't sell bottled water on site anymore. And we encourage sustainable practices in all our programming. We'll also be very, very proud to have electric vehicle charging stations, some of the first in this region on site. We encourage visitors to come for free to charge up their cars and, of course, enjoy the estate and the visitor center while they wait. Doesn't hurt. We wouldn't mind that you come and eat in a restaurant or shop in the retail while you're waiting, but even if you don't, we don't mind. With our exhibit design partners at Lucy Creative out of Chicago, I know Sarah Ingram is on the call with us too. It was important that we made sure that guests were informed about all the sustainable features in our new buildings. So through exhibition panels, window clings, and signage on the estate. Action, however, is at the core of these changes. And a new staff sustainability committee was formed with set goals and objectives so that we can make a commitment of action as staff, hold ourselves accountable, and ensure our practices inspire our visitors to make changes in their own lives. Ultimately, our hope is a better world in the future. And this was really, really important because, again, it's very easy to say that, oh, you built this, you did this, but if you don't have action behind it, it really is just empty words. And so it was impressive when staff representing the whole organization has stepped up and said, no, we're very passionate about this new initiative about sustainability. And they wanted to come together and make sure that we were held accountable and continue to be so moving forward. Now, all of these features are part of what we call the new Ford House. The buildings have given Ford House the tools to transform and improve how we engage visitors, present our education and community programs, become more inclusive and welcoming, and ultimately how we do business. I'd like to welcome Amanda Rutland, our Director of Visitor Experience, to talk about how she's seen our new visitor center and amenities change the culture at Ford House. So Amanda, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. So from the very first entry point, the new building provides a very welcoming space for our visitors. We significantly increased our staff. Our part-time staff alone doubled in size. We brought in a diverse group of visitor experience associates who have those one-on-one interactions with guests to ensure that they have the best experience possible. Our lobby was designed to feel like a living room, offering a warm, inviting space for visitors as they arrived.
That does actually look quite lovely and warm.
With the help of Lucy Creative, we developed interpretation points throughout the building to make sure every visitor, whether they were coming here for a program, dining, shopping, or just walking through the grounds, that had an opportunity to learn about the Ford story. Visitors are also introduced to the Ford story through our new permanent interactive exhibits. The design team from Lucy Creative helped us with that and helped bring it to life. This is the first time that we're able to tell the Ford story in a dynamic way. We are truly able to humanize the family, thereby help bring the relevancy to our visitors of this story. We have more exhibit spaces that are for changing installations. Our first installation was driven by, or is driven by design, which tells the story of Edsel Ford's history as an automotive designer, and which is also produced by Lucy Creative. The new spaces have really been launching points for a wide range of new programs, including our very first Lake St. Clair Science Fair. This program brought out hundreds of people to engage and learn about the Great Lakes and our role in protecting them. It was a wonderful day. Look at all those happy kids. We have everything from lectures to elegant dinners to musical performances. The flexible spaces that we have in the visitor center allow us to engage with visitors like we've never done before. So we are very grateful for that. And the lake view is not too far away, so they always have a stunning view to look at. We've added 2 dining spaces that include our indoor and outdoor seating that allow visitors to be close to the lake and appreciate our natural environment. And as Mark said, we're about a month and a half out in reservations, so it is the place to be. And we've created a brand new shopping experience for our visitors. And of course, we keep sustainability in mind here as well. Our fixtures are from reclaimed wood, which is actually a 100-year-old American elm tree, which is absolutely beautiful. We have recycled shopping bags and many eco-friendly and local products for sale. So all of these things come together to create the new experience here at Ford House, which we're very proud of.
Thank you, Amanda. Well said. So as you can tell, I hope you can tell, we are so proud of this new experience that we've created at Ford House and how thoughtfully it was designed. So, you know, whether you're a big organization with many resources or a small organization with a small budget, I guess really the point of all this is that, you know, you can make a commitment for a better future and it's possible. And every effort towards a more sustainable future is an important step that ultimately benefits all of us. So, you know, again, this is the new Ford House, and we invite you and everyone to come wander, wonder, and explore. But also, as I said earlier, too, it's just that, you know, we just feel here that we can make a difference, and we made that commitment. And I'm most excited about to see what the future brings us as a lot of these actions come into practice. So thank you so much to AMM, and thank you to all our peers out there for this recognition. We are humble. I'm going to stop sharing here. There we go. Oh, and I have to show you our award too, right, Charity?
Right, look at that. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark and Jason and Bob and Amanda for that great presentation. It was wonderful. I mean, first of all, it was wonderful to hear Greg's description of it freshly after a visit, but to get to see it all a little bit more closely through your images and your sort of details behind the scenes is really great. I think it's not something that everybody would maybe pick up on just walking through. So it's nice to get that insider sort of perspective on it. I mentioned this in the chat already, but we've now reached our Q&A portion of this event. One of the brilliant things of these community celebrations is that it's an opportunity for all of us to ask questions we have about the project featured, and in this case, Ford House's new buildings, but you know, also just all the changes associated with that. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I've noted one that came through, but I have got a couple other questions myself. So I'll start through those and then I'll be able to incorporate other questions as they come in. I think what I'll do, you know, I'll put these questions out there to the whole group, Mark and Jason and Bob and Amanda. You all can decide among you who's the best person to answer, or multiple of you can respond if that's better too. So that one question came in from Brenda. It says, did you have any issues with your SHPO, which honestly, I don't know what that stands for, regarding the modern buildings coexisting with the historic site? Did you need to consider sight lines, etc.?
So that's in reference to the State Historic Preservation Office. And Bob, you're probably positioned well to maybe touch on that if you don't mind too, but I mean, the short answer is no, but Bob can expand.
Sure. We did not have any issues from a couple different viewpoints. First, We were targeting, when we looked at what the Park Service kind of goals are for a historical site, one of the statements is not to replicate history, but to be really considerate of it. And so we tried really hard with our forms, with the materials, with everything we were doing to be considerate. And so felt we were within the spirit of what the Park Service was looking for. But also the North Development Zone is a separate part of the site of the house. And so because it was so far removed from the actual historical estate and the grounds, we did not have any issues. And sightlines were considered in the sense that from the visitor center and the admin building, you can't see the house.
Oh, interesting. Great, thanks, Bob. So I've got another sort of design related question for you all. As I think about this project and sort of the enormous sustainability goal, and as somebody who's aware of how a design process for something like this might begin, I keep wondering, like, how did you take this big idea and translate it into a design? And so maybe the question to focus this question, because I'm sure it would be a long answer all in and of itself, is just kind of, where did you start? Where did it start?
And I think that's a fantastic question. And not only thinking about your own organizations, how you make decisions and big decisions, I think, again, I think we all can say this, we're complex organizations, and whether you have board of directors and staff opinions. And so really, I know for us, it started with doing some internal conversations about needs and talking to different departments is, if you could dream the dream, what does that look like? And then you start talking about, okay, that's the dream, now reality. And then, to think about what it is that we wanted. A strategic plan's always, critical to have, to know where you're going and have those in the forefront. But as Bob knows, those are all good, but when you start getting down to the reality, you need somebody who knows stuff. And so that's what Smith Group, I think, was so invaluable, is that sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so here's what we want to do. And then you have somebody that's informed, like Smith Group and our colleagues there, that said, well, you can do that, but here's another way of doing it. It may cost a little bit more, it may take a little bit longer, or it may change a few things, but guess what? You'll have this footprint impact. You have this relevancy, you have this story to tell. And by the way, at the end of the day, it fits in your legacy of Edsel and Eleanor Ford, which of course speaks dearly to us and our board, which are members of the family. So I think it's us dreaming as staff and as board. Then it's kind of that reality coming from the experts that know better. And then, quite frankly, it's a bit of negotiations and find out where you are in between. What do you think about that, Bob?
Yeah, I think that's dead on. I would just add that kind of tactically, you all initiated a master plan that set some objectives. Yeah. Right. And then we came on board and just confirmed those objectives. And then from there, kind of started to whittle away at them, like you said.
So one of, and Charity, maybe to that, and I'll go back to, I think the question was with Brenda regarding SHPO. One of the things, so we had an existing activity center that was built in early 90s, 1990. And we quickly outgrew its functionality. It was never really constructed knowing what Ford House could be in the future. So that was a life lesson, number one, as we built these buildings. We don't want to repeat that. But more importantly, though, that activity center embraced part of its construction back in the 90s, a historic building, which was the greenhouse service building, kind of a gardener's residence, if you will, in some workspace. And as a preservationist myself, I was like, whoa, we have to preserve this. And the reality was this, and this is the hard conversations, that our wishes outgrew the ability to repurpose that building and that site. So at the end of the day, we had actually demolish that building. We couldn't relocate it. That was problematic. And so we took painstakingly to footnote every brick, location, salvage all the bricks, salvage the beautiful chimney design. And so we can rebuild that at a later date or use it in garden spaces and non-historical spaces. But these are those compromises that you find as you get into a project like this, that even your heart speaks, but you have to sit there and say, okay, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And you have to meet people halfway.
Great, thank you. Another sort of design related question. So you mentioned earlier, you started this in 2017, and since then many things have happened. So I'm just curious, like, name one or two things that maybe had to change in your plans because of the pandemic.
Well, the first and foremost was that we were to be in these buildings that originally, and Bob, I don't know if you remember this, but the truth of the matter is the original projection. I remember seeing a document at one point, it was actually 2018. There was a number, and then things changed and grew. So you put that in reality, everything got pushed back. Now, what that means though, it's not simply that we delayed the project, but you developed a business model based upon earned revenue, engagement, program development, membership development. So all those times when you got delayed and things pushed, whether through COVID or lack of supply of materials and things like that, it has a financial impact too. And so there's that. Two, from a selfish perspective, Charity, I knew that this project, and I think our team here will agree, it is the linchpin for a new Ford House. Not only just about how we do business, what we do and impact, but honestly, it's rebranding, it's re-engagement, it's redevelopment, a new organization. And every time it got delayed, it meant this new launch in my heart was being delayed. And I know my teammates will say, you could actually see it in me that I started getting frustrated because it meant, well, we just kind of have to play it out. And because we're so excited about using this to talk about more about who we are moving forward. Amanda, you probably have a couple of examples, I am sure.
I always have examples. But I do think more than anything, it gave us time to really flesh out the idea of what we wanted. I came on halfway through the project, so I joined late in 2019. And so I walked in and there was an empty store. So we created the store from scratch. So that little delay gave us the time to be thoughtful in our design and look at this American elm tree and how we could use it in the retail space and be thoughtful with the products we created. But it also, more importantly, the thing that I think has changed the culture here the most is our hiring practices and bringing in a diverse team and having them not know a whole lot about Ford House. So indoctrinating them in our practices and our policies and getting them excited about telling our story was definitely something that was great out of a delay. And I think it's had a wonderful impact on us.
And if I just might add, I know Greg and I were just talking about this the other day, the fact of the matter is, and to be candid, with our colleagues and peers here, that, it's not always easy to tell the story of a wealthy white family and look at all the money they had and what they can build. And so that connection, that relevancy, as Amanda was talking about, these buildings have allowed us to make connections that we couldn't in the past. And quite frankly, this commitment to sustainability and environmental stewardship is allowing us to, I think, make a much bigger impact beyond just what we're charged to do about preserving the estate and bring relevancy to anybody and everybody. And I think that opens up our responsibility, but our opportunity, unlike anything else.
I mean, I'm glad you kind of mentioned, your part in the process, and getting to inform some of the design choices. Part of the benefit of the delay was more time to do that. I'm curious what other ways the staff were engaged in the design process and the planning for this.
Well, I will say, I saw a smirk from Amanda. One of the challenges, we also, during this whole process of 4 years, we have had a lot of change. We had board chair change. Quite frankly, I was not the president and CEO at the time. I've been with the organization for 10 years, but my colleague that hired me, it was really her vision, Kathleen Mullins, that started a lot of this. I think some of my colleagues today would say that it was challenging in the beginning, that maybe staff weren't as involved as they probably could have been and should have been. And for a whole host of reasons. And I think if we could ever do it again, we would ensure that there was more engagement by a lot of the leadership and the people that have to use the buildings to ensure that we understood them better. And as we got in there, that our needs were at the table. And so that process, we're, as Amanda alluded to, we're kind of now breathe We're in the buildings finally. Let's breathe. Let's be patient. And let's give it a year before we make any reaction or decisions. Learn this year, and then probably going into next year at a later time, we'll begin to make even major changes if we need to make sure it works for Ford House.
Awesome. Well, just looking at the time here, I'm going to just offer up one question for all of you from the team who are a part of the project. I got kind of like a hypothetical, like say you were giving your sort of museum hack style tour. You're going to tour your friend through and you got to point out your favorite things. It's a favorite things tour of the new buildings. What's one thing you would make sure to highlight because you're so proud of it and you just love to tell a story of it?
Jason, how about you first?
As an avid outdoorsman, I love the bird glass. You haven't got to do that. Although you can't see it, it's such a great conversation piece because you can't see it. So it's a cool story to talk about. So that was a late change in the game. And I think that came from Germany as well with all the supply stuff. So that was an interesting change, but it worked out cool. And it makes sense in that area. And it's a great conversation piece. So I like the bird glass.
Nice. Bob, how about you?
I really am enamored with that space, the second floor space in the visitor center before you get into the event room, into the event space. There might have been a shot that you showed earlier, but it's where all the peaks on the interior and the visitor center come together at one point, and it's just so cool. Yeah, it's cool.
Spoken like
you gotta
an architect.
You got to go visit it, right? You got to go visit it.
How about you, Amanda?
Oh, without a doubt, it is the cash wrap in the retail space. It is a slab from that American elm tree, and it has a live edge, and everybody comes in and sees it, and you're literally touching history from the estate. It's beautiful, so it's well worth a visit.
So for me, Charity, that's a really, really hard question because there is so much just to be excited about and proud about. But I will tell you the one thing that really has connected with me, and I'm going to give a shout out to our colleagues, Lucy Creative out of Chicago, in that the exhibits, but specifically the Ford family story, which is our permanent exhibition. And I say that because another challenge with a lot of places like us that have kind of these families or individuals that are put on a pedestal, but of history, the challenge is just trying to humanize them. So again, people can connect them and see how these estates have been used, why they're important. And through our Ford family story, we were able to bring the family to life through historic film and photographs and technology in a way that we've never been able to do. And I continuously hear both from the family, but from visitors that, oh my gosh, they really had family love. There's this familial support of each other and activity, and you can see in their eyes and the smiles. So that to me is what we're all trying to do, especially us history museums, is bring history alive. And we were able to do that.
Awesome. Well, I have made notes to myself when the future best practices tour I take of the Ford House to see the bird glass, second floor space, the cash wrap with the live edge, and then the permanent exhibition. So noted. Well, thank you for indulging us in the behind the scenes. And, congratulations again, Mark and team. I invite everybody to unmute one more time. Please cheer loudly, clap, and celebrate and congratulate the Ford House on the Best Practices Award. Congratulations again. We're very excited to have kicked off our week of virtual award celebrations with the Ford House today. Thank you all for being here. Greg, would you like to offer any final remarks before we go today?
It's just a real pleasure to know that I have the fortune of living very close to the Ford House. The landscape alone is worth, the flight in from Minneapolis or the drive from down the street. It really is a destination between the new construction, the historic landscape, the Albert Kahn designed manor home. You got to see it. Everybody out there, you'll come away inspired. Congratulations again.
Great, thank you. And as we say goodbye today for today's event, I do ask that our Ford House team and Greg stay on for a quick photo op at the end of our event. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your evening and see you around this week.